Welcome to Betweenplays Stock Market Strategies. Today, here with us, we have Peter Cashin, geologist with 38 years experience, past president and CEO of Quest Rare Minerals, discovered the world-class Strange Lake rare earth deposit in Quebec, 2010 Quebec Prospector of the Year recipient. He is founder, president, and CEO of Imperial Mining Group. Welcome, Peter, to Betweenplays Stock Market Strategies. How are you doing today?
Good, Albert. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. So happy to have you here. So I was reading up on scandium, and I'm just honestly really fascinated by its properties and what it can do. I was wondering if you can take us through to your investors presentation and basically just explain in simple terms to our followers out there, like, what is your company about, what scandium is, what it could be used for, the stage that the company's at, and basically the investors' opportunities.
Well, a little bit of history there, Albert. Property itself, I had found in addition to Strange Lake, I found this project, I would say a couple of years after. And it was really, the orientation was rare earths. We were looking at rare earths, so some great numbers, but we can never really put anything together that was of economic significance. In 2014, I told my crew, it's drill to kill. It's one of those ones where we've been there long enough. We haven't found anything of economic interest. Let's pop these last holes. And if we come up empty, that's it. We're out of the project. That's the end of it. Well, that's when we found the scandium zone.
Wow.
And in that scandium zone, I mean, we were getting 150 to 200 meters of drill intersection mineralization from top to bottom, nonstop. And if you look at that, that 150 to 200 meter intersection probably had a gold equivalent value of anywhere between 6 and 12 grams per ton gold. So any company that even today would report those kinds of numbers, they'd be in the multiple dollar per share level, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, okay, yes. And I saw, because you have a great market cap right now for investors to get in at. I mean,
yeah, it's really good. I think it comes down to the market doesn't quite understand really the direction of this commodity, and you have to be somewhat visionary to say, what's the driver? Well, the driver right now is reduction of carbon footprint, lowering emissions, lowering greenhouse gases, and one of the best ways to do that, especially for automobiles, is lightening up the chassis. And scandium in aluminum provides you with that light weighting, and you get all of the characteristics that you need: strength and temperature resistance and corrosion resistance. And then that's exactly the kind of material you need, but it's like 1/3 the weight of steel.
Yeah, I was reading a little bit up on that, the scandium. It's like half a percentage, like less than 1%, and it strengthens like the aluminum by 30% and greater.
Actually, even lower than that. It's anywhere between 0.2 and 0.4%.
0.2 and 0.4.
Scandium can increase the strength of the alloy by up to 800%, depending on the grade.
That's
weight times.
That's incredible. That's incredible numbers. So there's a massive savings to be had across many different industries, actually.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow. So for the
aerospace, automotive, defense. It even has application as a chemical input into fuel cells. And of course, fuel cells from the automotive industry standpoint, I think, is the next evolution of the electric vehicle, from battery electrics to fuel cells. And one of the reasons why that is, of course, I just bought a new vehicle at the beginning of last year.
Okay. And
I was thinking about EVs. But my concern is I'm a Montrealer, but I live in Toronto. Okay. And I can't. My question was, can I take this vehicle from Toronto to Montreal on a single charge? And the answer is no. I'd have to go only halfway and then sit in a gas station having my Tim Hortons for an hour while the vehicle charges, so I can finish up the trip.
And sorry, not to interrupt you, but that's on a fast charger.
That's on a fast charger.
Yeah.
So what can an EV do? So fuel cells it's going to be the same as a gas station. You're going to go up to the hydrogen station. You're going to pump the hydrogen into the vehicle, and you'll get 1,000, maybe 10, 15 minutes, and you're going to get 1,000 kilometers of range on the vehicle.
Wow. Yes.
So I think that's where EVs are eventually going to go.
Wow, that's really incredible. That's really incredible. And this is all, this is Imperial Mining that's doing all this right now. This is very exciting times for your company, because it's just, this is like we're at the base right now. We're at the starting point.
These are early days. Yeah. Funny enough, all of the science behind, what scandium to aluminum does in terms of the strengthener and all those other characteristics, it's been known for years. But the issue has always been there is not sufficient global supply of scandium, because currently we get our scandium from either China or Russia, and then there's just some new supplies coming from the Philippines, and that's it really.
And we saw what China did in 2020 by withholding back. Right?
Well, that's why when I was running Quest, we went from 6 cents to $9 because of what China did to manipulate the rare earth market. They're the big gorilla in the room for rare earths. But scandium, what they produce is maybe about 20 tons of scandium a year, and that's capped. That's all they can produce. That's all their available supply. So all of a sudden, Strange Lake or Crater Lake is going to be one of those supplies. It's in North America. We're right next door to probably our biggest trading partner, where defense technologies and the automotive industry is so very important. You can't have a better relationship in terms of security of supply, and that's the big issue here.
Yeah, and if we're looking at the whole China, let's say what happened in 2020, and then we look at what's happening with Russia right now and the Ukraine, I mean, the tension between the United States, NATO, and I mean, like if China and Russia are the two that are supplying most of the scandium right now, I think we're going to need like our own supply. Like we're going to need a lot of scandium for ourselves.
That's correct.
So yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I honestly, I think it's a great opportunity for all investors right now to really be looking at your company, especially at the stage that's at. I mean, today I was looking, it's at 14 cents the stock at the moment. I mean, it's just a buying opportunity to load up, for investors. Naturally, I never tell investors what to do. Everybody should do their own research. But at 14 cents, 22 million market cap, when you're looking at, we're getting most of it right now from China and Russia, this is just an amazing opportunity.
Right.
So yeah, so I don't know if you wanted to take some time and go through that investors presentation. I looked it up. I was looking at it. It was so interesting. And with all of the points that you have there, especially with the EV, and it's so easy to relate to, I think.
Yeah. Okay, let's do that. Okay, can you see that?
Yes, I can.
I'll put it on full screen. So let's run through it. Disclaimer statement, of course, some forward-looking statements. We're at the point now where we're very close to delivering our PEA. We're just doing a bit of back and forth from our engineers, and that should be that information should be forthcoming. It's critically important for us because it'll portray a sense of the revenue stream and the cash flow model related to the deposit. So that's really important. We like it because it could provide us with near-term sustainable supply, cash generation. We want to be the disruptor price. I think the fact that the Russians and Chinese have not only controlled supply, they've also controlled price. So being a North American, and that as a North American consumer of scandium aluminum, we wouldn't pay the China price, but we would pay the China FOB price plus the imposition of a tariff on there. So premium certainly to the China price, and the fact that we're in Quebec. I mean, we're right in the aluminum capital of Canada. It's as a matter of fact, the aluminum companies in Quebec are portraying themselves to be green aluminum producers. Yeah. And then we're the only primary source of scandium. And we've been in this critical metal space for years. Both myself, my operating team, and even my board membership are all people that have been in the space. So we know how to, very different from gold or copper or zinc. Yeah. So there's our cap structure. That's not terribly up to date. We just did a $3 million financing before Christmas. We've had quite a bit of warrant exercises that we'd like to see come back in, maybe from the announcement of the PEA either later this month or in March. Strong board, strong operating management, people that have built mines, understand the metallurgy of mines, have discovered them, have marketed them And now, because we want to go and produce alloy, base alloy, we brought in some technical advisory of people. Basically, Mark Galarno ran Alcan, then Novellis's technology center. So he fully understands how to produce this stuff. Very, very strong board, people that have built mines, sold mines, finance mines for majors and juniors. So basically, as I say, you put small quantities of scandium into aluminum, as it hardens it, it makes it stronger, it makes it lightweight. So obviously this theme being, of course, that we want to reduce carbon emissions, exhaust emissions, lower the carbon footprint. Lightening the platforms does it right across the manufacturing space. Like I said, the problem is there's not enough material to go around, and as a result, prices are unusually high. And then, unfortunately, for the time being, anyways, manufacturers have found alternative materials for that same process, but never good enough. It never really provides the same characteristics that scandium aluminum can provide. So. And that's basically a bit of a chart. The red bars indicate versus the black bars indicate how much you can increase the strength of the alloy by, very, very small quantities of scandium in there.
Wow.
So there's a big application in the automotive space. It's not the whole car made of scandium aluminum, but it's in areas where strength and lightweight characteristics is important. Things like battery boxes for EVs, or housings of electric motors, or structural components. So you can see that the growth of, especially when we're talking transportation, the electrification of the transportation industry is on the rise, and many of the manufacturers are changing their manufacturing mix to include EVs, and I think that's just going to grow. As a matter of fact, is just the growth gap between 2014 and 21 is 48% increase in EVs. And there was an article in the New York Times that showed that 2022, I think, is going to be the tipping point for EV sales. And once that happens, then there's going to be a huge demand for the materials necessary for the batteries, as well as the lightweighting. Because you lightweight an EV, you can extend the range. And that'll answer my concern about driving from here to Montreal. It's you can lightweight a plane by removing the rivets and replacing with a scandium aluminum alloy, and that has a direct impact on lowering emissions, lowering consumption, as well as big fuel savings per plane. So a lot of that's being incorporated. Airbus is way at the leading edge of that material. They've got patents on it. And then I know that the Rio Tinto announcement of recovering scandium from their titanium operations in Sorel Tracy, all of that material that they're selling is ultimately going to Boeing Aerospace for their planes. So there's a big demand.
Huge demands. Great. That's excellent. Wow.
So defense applications, lightweighting, it has all the performance characteristics I outlined. And the US government's gone to the defense contractors and say, you got to start lightweighting these platforms, because things like tanks are starting to exceed the transportation capacity of most of those planes to get them out into the battlefield. So there's a big drive to lightweight defense applications. And transportation, of course, leads, and then energy follows. So in terms of the level of investment, the big driver, of course, is reduction of carbon footprint. And we've done some internal marketing that's going to come out. The growth is going to be about 14% compound annual growth from now to 2040 for scandium demand in aluminum. So a big market opportunity here going forward. And there's the producers. The red dots are basically where all of the production is. It's Russia, China, a little bit from the Philippines, and that's it. And then you've got Crater Lake sitting in the North American market. There's a bunch of other opportunities out there, but they're just byproduct, small quantities, very low concentrations, really not enough to satisfy the global demand for scandium. And I think scandium or Crater Lake will be able to provide that. There's the project in northeastern Quebec. So we're on the Quebec side. East of Schefferville, reasonable road, rail, All the red dots are the aluminum plants in the North Shore of the St. Lawrence. So, I mean, there's natural synergy between the product we produce and aluminum, and we couldn't be better located, I think. So there's access to roads. We're going to be presenting a model whereby we get our material down to Baie-Comeau and have our transformation as well as alloys plant there. So readily available alumina, electricity, and infrastructure. There's the project up in the top left-hand side. It's a big, that red and purple colored material. That's magnetic rock. The ore itself is magnetic, and that thing is about 6 kilometers in diameter. So really, we've traced it now around for about 14 kilometers in strike length. We did some drilling. We reported a resource estimate on what we call the TG target, which is the north half of the TG zone. And it's 20 million tons of mineralization, which it's completely wide open to expansion. It's open at depth and along strike. Wow. And then the whole southern half, of the zone down in here hasn't even been touched. We have one hole that we intersected 114 meters of mineralization of a higher grade. And the idea being is you want to go back in there and look at it in a little bit more detail, maybe bring that into resource as well. So not worried about resource. These things, once you're on these big systems, don't worry about grade and resource. Worry about size and longevity. You got to make sure that the size of the deposit is going to be more than justify the investment of getting this thing on the go, and that's kind of our view. So just a little bit, that this is a scale map of some of the plans. You got a pit on part of the zone. There's all the surface infrastructure, crusher, as well as magnetic separator, because the ore is magnetic. We can actually crush it, use a magnetic concentrator, and eliminate half the volume. So we're reducing, the idea being is you want to reduce the amount of material you have to ship to market. And that's what we're able to do for this thing. We've done a lot. And what's really important, I think, to create market is R&D, research and development. What you want to do is produce new materials and new applications for those materials to attract consumers. And we've been quite successful. We've attracted about $3 million worth of R&D capital. There's another one that we just announced last week. It was $245,000 from the Quebec Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources to work on the recovery process that we've now have a patent pending on, because it's very unique and very effective, very efficient. So that really is what creates your market for you. You were talking about, Albert, about Eck Industries. That's one where we're working with them to produce a prototype of a battery box for an electric vehicle using scandium aluminum. The characteristics of the material we used in that battery box met or exceeded the characteristics that the manufacturer wanted. This is a major global automotive manufacturer that made this request. We're now moving it to prototype, and if the prototype for the battery box is accepted, it could turn into a very important offtake agreement with this manufacturer. There's many comparables. We're very unusual in that it's hard rock. Most of the other kinds of deposits are what they call laterites, or basically weathered rock in tropical conditions. Our grades are certainly comparable, but in addition to the significant quantities of scandium, we have high rare earths, which will provide us with a revenue source, as well as zirconium. And of course, zirconium is used for military applications. It's used in the nuclear power production industry. There's a market for that, but we haven't really looked on what the economic impacts of those, adding those revenue streams from those onto. But the whole idea is the more we can gain from byproduct value will lessen the operating costs for the recovery of scandium, and that's our driver, really, if you think of it. We've got some mandates. We're going to be coming up with the PEA very soon. We're doing some work on our metallurgy. What's important is to take these processes and scale them up before you go into full production. So that's where you go into a pilot plant. Now, instead of a lab test. You're actually now processing tons of ore and tweaking your process to maximize the recovery, lower the cost, lower carbon footprint. So all of that stuff is going to start up throughout 2021. We're also doing a request for proposal for an environmental baseline. You have to do 12 months of environmental studies of the ecology, of the archaeology of the area before you go into a feasibility study. So that's going to happen as well. So we think that if with a full funding envelope, we'll be in a position to be in production by 2025, 2026. So what's the investment opportunity? There are large high-grade surface scandium and rare earth reserves with huge upside in terms of resource development. The operating environment at the mine will be small. It's going to be a small open pit. So it's a very, very small environmental impact. And it's a material that contributes to the lowering of carbon footprint. So it's got a really green moniker associated with it. And the reason why Quebec government is funding into these projects is it's in keeping with their green plan. Quebec is going to be at the lead, I think, of certainly battery electrics and the electrification of the automotive industry, and any associated industries that could benefit will be supported. We're using a price point which is well lower, very much lower than our peers, and certainly lower than what's currently available. Reason being is we're being conservative. In other words, our view is that if we can make it at $1,500, we can make it at any $1,500 US a kilogram. We can make it at any price.
Okay.
So we've got a board and management that's that knows this business, and we've secured quite a bit of R&D capital to enhance what they call market pull. So in other words, we're producing applications, we're producing new materials that attracts manufacturers and say, yeah, I need that stuff. I need it for my spring or my shock absorber, or maybe my battery box in the instance of the arrangement that we have. And with that, I'd like to thank you and happy to answer any other questions that you might have, Albert.
Okay, well, honestly, Peter, I was reading the same thing as you with the whole tipping point 2022, and I just took a fast look to go and see what that was. It was Investors Place and Market Watch. And really important places for investors to go and read up on these things. So yeah, and my own experiences too with EVs. I mean, we're out looking for plug-in hybrids and EVs and all this kind of stuff the last few days, and there's a demand. Lots are piled with gas vehicles. We have dealers saying, well, we have some gas vehicles out here if we can interest you, because everything's 1, 2, 3, 4 years on demand, and they're showing us stacks of paper where people would rather wait 3 years, for the Ford RAV4, let's just say, for example, they'll wait 3 years for that vehicle, where they want to almost give us at manufacturing cost a gas vehicle that's in their lot and no one's taking it.
There, exactly.
It's a huge demand for the future. Peter, this was all extremely interesting. It was a pleasure having you today on the show. And we'd like to have you back as the project progresses.
Love to be able to inform your followers.
All right. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Yeah, you too. All the best. Have a good one.
All the best. Hello to everyone out there. Just taking 2 seconds of your time and asking you to hit the subscribe and the like button. I'd like to also direct you to betweenplays.com, www.betweenplays.com, where we put up many different articles. We have 3 different writers at the moment, and we're trying to up the authors. And go to our Twitter account for really quick information at Betweenplays1, and we'll be able to get people to pre-market information and whatever comes along that is important to macroeconomics, microeconomics. As we say here, our motto: research, prepare, plan, execute. Always do your due diligence, and stay strong, everybody. Stay strong.